Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be discussing the newly released ultimate evolution of Sarasvati. So, she is now a 100 times attack row leader who deals tremendous amounts of burst damage and is relatively easy to activate. You don't have to go through like complicated mechanics, hoops, heart crosses, funky patterns. All you have to do is match 3 unique water combos, and one of them being at least 6+ connected. So that means you make a row and 2 water combos. Doesn't sound too difficult, and it allows you to hit like 100 times damage, like I said, and that will blow most content out of the water. So I want to take the time to discuss like her team building and strategies used when playing her, because it sounds easy, but it's a bit harder to execute than you might think. So, Sarasvati at a glance. She's now a healer, a god, and also has physical typing. She has 2 time extends and 2 row enhances, as well as double skill boost and a single water enhance awakening. Now, she lacks a skill bind resist, which I'll get to later on. Her active skill changes 2 random orbs into water orbs, except from water, and also grants you 3 turns of a 15% water skyfall buff. So you're statistically more likely to have water orbs fall down. And this is on a 6-turn cooldown, which means if both leaders are max skilled, you have 100% uptime on your skyfall buff. So as I mentioned before, the leader skill, it scales upward based on the number of water combos, and if you make 5+ connected water, when you make 6+ connected and 2 other water matches, for a total of 3 water combos, 100 times damage. So, for sample gameplay, this time I actually own the leader, which is surprising because I don't own very much, and I get to actually make my own videos so you can watch. So I've cleared Legendary Sea of Tears on my own offline, and I clear Arena 1 on stream, so there might be some sound issues with the Arena 1, but you can kind of get an idea how to play through these dungeons. It might be informative, but at least it's more so showcasing how much damage you actually can deal, along with how to manage your orbs in a more ideal manner. Furthermore, you can also do your own research by clicking the link here. It will take you to YouTube, basically searching for her clears on Japan. So, the pros of this new Sarasvati evolution are 100 times attack multiplier while stacking water rows, and with 12 water orbs, you essentially kill any boss in the game. You're going to probably be dealing 2.5 million damage per sub with just 3 combos. I'm guesstimating that much. Maybe it's less, maybe a bit more, but it's probably enough to kill a boss, and it doesn't take too much skill to match. So with that being said, like the lowest skill cap for that, but to manage your water orbs is a lot harder than actually triggering the 100 times. Triggering the 100 times is easy. Managing your orbs is the harder aspect of her leader skill. And with the 2 time extend awakenings, she has ample time to manipulate orbs and positions. You have 100% uptime of your Skyfall buff. You have lots of sub flexibility because you just want to bring orb changers as a general rule. Her playstyle is quite fun, she deals tons of damage, and is a viable alternative to Yao Yu. And she excels in short dungeons with high damage requirements, and she's also quite beautiful. I like her artwork, it's quite stunning, and there's also a majestic bird in the background. Those are all definitely big pros in my opinion. And for cons, she's a glass cannon. She has no recovery and no health multiplier, so she's very fragile, and to make matters worse, she's very orb hungry. If you have less than 9 water orbs, you're not going to deal much damage, and 9 water orbs deals 25 times, and there's no 2-prong or row benefit on top of that, so you are not going to be hitting too much. It's kind of where you need to get 11 orbs in order to make a 5 link, and then you get 56 times with 2 other water combos. 12 orbs blows content out because you get the row. Her team requirements are very skill-up heavy. It's very intensive because you need to have orb changers and you need to have them fast. So you need your leaders and your subs all being max skilled or as close as possible. And just because of the issues with stalling and sometimes the difficulty in hoarding at least 12 water orbs, you might have to use an active every turn to kill floors, unless you're very lucky and the bosses are friendly and you don't get Skyfalls triggering your other water orbs. Like, it's a little nightmare trying to conserve orbs at times. And in my opinion, she struggles in longer dungeons, such as Arena, even Arena 1, and she has difficulty stalling as well, or if they have strange mechanics, because you can't really sacrifice too many sub slots for utility because you need those orb changers. So this is a very helpful chart that breaks down her multiplier with various number of water orbs. You should ideally be trying to match rows when possible, because rows trigger your full trigger more damage plus the row enhanced multiplier bonus. As you can see, when you hit 12 orbs, you do 100 times damage with 3 combos and 1 row. Explosions, like things die. It's kind of amazing, actually. And therein lies the problem, because when you need to get 25 times, which is probably enough to kill like maybe modest sized floors, you need 9 water orbs, and that's quite a bit. But once you get 12, you overkill the floor. So there's no happy middle ground, and you're probably needing actives all the time. And that can be frustrating, and that's why she's not going to be brought to every dungeon, because she's not as easy to use in terms of setting it up. Matching the orbs are easy, like I said. And what makes stalling difficult is obviously no health and recovery multiplier, but because of the water skyfall mechanic, yes, you are getting more water orbs, but at the same time you might be matching water orbs that fall down, so you might not actually get enough orbs to deal damage, and you might even just push a boss into an unfavorable zone. So it's going to be hard to stall for actives. Like, it's a frustrating time waiting for orbs. Like, I've cleared Arena 1 a few times with her, and it was a bit frustrating because I'm like, I want to kill it, but I don't have enough orbs. I'm stalling, but I'm just getting either too many water orbs, they match themselves, or I can't keep them there. Like, so on and so forth, where I have to sweep the floor so I use actives. So it's a struggle to use her effectively, especially in longer dungeons. So that brings me to the next point of my topic. What dungeon should I be using Sarasvati in? And so the simple answer is short dungeons with no weird mechanics, such as like damage absorbs, delays, or giant preemptives. And ideally they have a high damage requirement, because she's basically a great burst leader, and that's what you should be using her for. You're not going to use her for super easy content because it's too orb hungry. If you're playing in co-op, you have 8 subs, so you have basically 8 actives you can use to kill a floor. So in theory, you could sweep 8 floors in a row, in theory. Nothing is that easy, of course, but co-op makes things easier. And basically, this over here would link to Twitch. It's an embed of my Twitch stream, so you can see like the whole Arena 1 run instead of the cropped version. There might be some sound issues because of copyright, but you'll get over it. Just seeing the gameplay is important, though, in my opinion. So with that being said, what awakening should you prioritize? And simply put, you want Watcher rows, because you have to form at least 6+ connected orbs at once, and you might as well make a row because that's the most efficient in terms of spacing and damage output. So you want water rows, and enhanced water orbs are also useful because they stack or they work synergistically with her Skyfall Awakening. 2-prong attacks should not be pursued because they don't trigger your full multiplier, and it just causes awkward spacing. So I would not pursue 2-prongs. If subs have them, great. If they don't, I wouldn't worry about it. So there's a little bit of advice here for using Sarasvati's active skill, and the key is you have to have both leaders max skilled. That way you have 100% uptime in your Skyfall buff. However, you may not want to always use her active on cooldown in certain situations. Situations such as when you need to control your damage, because if you have Skyfalls happening on their own, you're probably going to do too much and heal and erase all the hard work you've done, push bosses into an unfavorable zone, so on and so forth. So you might have to not use your active at that point. Conversely, another time you can possibly waiting to use your active is after you use a full board changer such as Blue Sonya. You can use Sarasvati's active to help correct the bad board by spawning 2 more water orbs. So say she spawned only 10 water orbs and 20 dark. If you use Sarasvati's active, you would get 12 water orbs instead. That way you can form your 100 times with the row, and that should be enough to kill the floor. So that's another way you can kind of use your active instead of just using it on cooldown. It's not like it's Zerog Infinity where you have haste and you want to loop your skills, so it's a bit different. So, for team building options, and for Sarasvati, my recommendations is you want to bring subs that have orb changers. If you're forced to load up too much on utility, you would probably not want to be running Sarasvati in that dungeon, because if you have to dedicate so many subs to utility, such as delays, shields, so on and so forth, you're going to be out of orb changers, and you won't be able to burst floors down. So you want to try and find subs that have impactful orb changers, Something such as Sumire, who spawns 3 water and 3 hearts, is not helpful because it's not impactful enough. You use his active, you may not even be able to activate Sarasvati's leader skill. So you want to bring something that at least generates either a fixed position or spawns off certain orbs. That's just my recommendation. You might feel differently, but I don't think it's going to be too effective otherwise. So, as with these sub-tier lists, these are my opinions. They're subject to debate, of course. It works differently for every person, but these are who I consider like better subs for Sarasvati. So first off is Blue Sonya, mainly because she has a huge chunk of health, the full board changer, and a lot of nice awakenings. The huge chunk of health is helpful because it might allow you to survive preemptives that you normally couldn't, so that automatically cuts down on the utility needed for your team composition. And her active floods creates water and dark in random amounts, but you're statistically going to get at least 12 water orbs on average. Usually you should get more, and with 12 that's enough to burst the floor. Like I said before, you can save Sarasvati's active to use in conjunction, and that should almost guarantee you enough, because if you spawn 10 water orbs, you can correct it to 12. As for her awakenings, she has Rose and Orb Enhance, which is great, but she has the Recover Bind, and that is helpful because it gives you a bit more utility in terms of being able to clear binds off subs. Granted, Blue Sonya does not make hearts or is bind immune herself, but it's a nice option, something to keep in mind because it's possibly saving you a sub slot, so that's why I like to use her. Next is Ryune. She is probably your best option for a tri-color board changer because her active is the most powerful as it provides haste, and has lots of orb changer combos because she can combine with any Heartbreaker or Hatsumi because of the dark orbs. And with a 2/3 water board, you're going to blow content up. Like, things will die. And if you just use her active as a standalone and you get at least 12 water orbs, you can kill things and heal at the same time. It's nice utility, good diversification, and she still has an ultimate evolution coming up sometime in the near future. When that happens, I don't know, but when it does, it's probably going to be very powerful. Next is Andromeda, and she's almost always seen on mono water teams because she has a water generating active and enhanced heart orb generating active, all combined into one. And that allows you to deal damage and heal, which again cuts down on the utility needed because she brings her own. And furthermore, she has that key Recover Bind awakening, and she spawns heart orbs. She can be bound, but you can clear the binds and sweep the floor. Very important, and she has high base recovery, so those enhanced orbs are going to heal for very high amounts. Gabriel is kind of like the worst option for Andromeda. Like, Andromeda kind of does everything that Gabriel does, but better in my opinion. The auto heals are sometimes useful, but it's not that great. I'd rather have the Recover Bind awakening, and that's kind of the main issue of Andromeda. Plus, Andromeda actually has dual skill bind resist, so that makes her even more powerful. Next up is Hermes, and it's really Hermes in any form, because Awoken Hermes, despite the Skyfall buff, has no more value than the other Hermes in terms of active, because it competes with Sarasvati's active Skyfall, so you're not gaining anything extra. And this is just my opinion, but I think Blue Light is the best Hermes to run in her team, because if you look at the stat distribution, Blue Dark and Blue Fire, which is Awoken, their stats are so heavily skewed towards attack. And attack is probably the most insignificant stat for Sarasvati because you hit so hard already. And Blue Light, which is the physical Hermes, has health as their primary stat. So you're gaining a huge chunk of health, relatively speaking, for him. And that is more important than more attack, because you're blowing things up anyways. And with that extra health, you might survive more mechanics, so on and so forth. So that's why I prefer Blue Light Hermes, but whatever you have, you should use. But if this is your first Hermes, Blue Light might be the best option if you're not using him for any other team. Finally, for like the higher tier subs, I put Beach S Calamari or S Shamali, mainly because she's like Hermes, but she has the ability to remove poison and jammers. Granted, her cooldown is a bit longer, but the fact that she removes those might be invaluable and worth bringing on the team. The Skyfalls don't do much, but all those enhanced orbs do add significant damage. I'll bet damage is not usually a big deal on Sarasvati teams. So for viable subs, I put Summer Erd, mainly because she spawns Heart Orbs, and she has at least good combos with Heartbreakers and Andromeda, who you might be running already. The reason why I put her lower than Ryune is because Summer Erd does not have haste. And haste is useful, especially when playing solo, because you might be able to loop your other actors back up faster. And Andromeda will get an evolution, so on and so forth. Next is Mori Montanari. He got a new evolution in Japan. It will come stateside sometime soon, hopefully. And his active is like Blue Sonya, but it provides 2 turns of haste. Now, haste is a lot better in solo than in co-op because it affects your entire team and doesn't affect your partner. So haste is more meaningful then. However, I prefer Blue Sonya mainly because she has that Recover Bind Awakening. And that is a bit more utility than Mori Montanari, so I like her a bit more, and also because Mori doesn't have his new evolution here yet. So I'd be using Ryune over him. And even if I got his new evolution, the 4 rows is nice, but again, you don't need damage. I'd rather have utility where I can bring it. Just my 2 cents, and I always play in co-op anyways. Water Valkyrie is a quick orb changer, but she removes hard orbs, so she's not as helpful because you can't heal and deal damage. Small thing, but she's pretty, so that's a nice thing. Nut spawns a column of water orbs on the left-hand side. It's useful because you get 5 orbs, but you may not get 5 because if you had water existing there beforehand, you may not get enough to activate your full multiplier to sweep the floor, so it's a bit of a gamble. But it can be used in conjunction with board changes to kind of correct them if they spawned poorly shaped boards. Hatsume is a fantastic 5-turn orb changer who converts dark orbs to water, and that is better than Water Valkyrie because you don't have to compete with hard orbs, so you can heal and deal damage, and it combos nicely with Ryune. Killer Awakenings are nice, but overkill in Sarasvati. Sharon spawns water orbs on the bottom row. Bottom row is not the best because when you're conserving actives, you tend to actually want to hoard your orbs at the bottom because they're least likely to get matched. And by spawning the orbs there, you kind of ruin that. So it's harder to stall. Yes, it can correct bad boards, but I don't like it spawning at the bottom. It's really itchy nose for some reason. Whoa. So, Salad, I don't know how to say his name. He haunts my dreams. I pulled 4 in a Godfist, so I'm sad. He's like Sharon and spawns a row of water, but on the top row and provides haste. Top row is better because you can pool orbs at the bottom, and then at the top row, you can unleash explosive damage to either 6 there. You probably have at least 6 somewhere in the bottom, and you'll kill the floor. Useful, and he does have a Recover Bind Awakening, so that is a unique way to get utility. Interesting. But his low space stats can be problematic. Sheet has 5-2 prongs, which are largely useless. Her active is not as useful because of the Skyfall has small benefit, and she's basically an okay sub. Maybe a better inherit, but I wouldn't necessarily run her as a sub in my opinion. Scald needs an updated icon, but Scald is another tricolor board changer that makes hearts, but she's less helpful, not because of her awakenings, but because you can't use Hermes in conjunction with her, because you'll make an entire board of 30 water orbs. So that is a problematic thing. Karen is another board changer, but she doesn't produce hearts, so I find her not as helpful. You shouldn't run her unless it's your only option, or you have a good combo to correct the board, such as Hatsume or Hermes. Orochi and Sun Quan are valuable delays, and that is an amazing amount of utility, and the fact that they're water-based is at least beneficial because you can run them without compromising your team roster. Below here, which is on my article, you can find this nice handy chart, which should hopefully help provide some inspiration for team building. Some of it may be outdated because I lifted it from my popular leaders post, but with skill inheritance, it's not as important to bring necessarily all the utility because you can inherit them over time. So, for sample teams, these are the teams that I've used successfully, and I find they work well, especially in co-op together, because I have a nice mixture of board changers, double orb changers, hard orb generation, and a delay. So I've cleared Arena 1 of this team several times, and Legendary Sea of Stars. So the teams obviously work. It's just a matter of can you replicate something similar or bringing orb change that work for you. The key is you have to be able to address the dungeon mechanics, but if you need to sacrifice too many subslots, I would suggest you don't run Sarasvati as a leader. So with skill inheritance, you're able to basically inherit a new active on top of one of your subs actives to kind of upgrade it or replace it. With Sarasvati, it's not necessarily the best thing to do because her active is kind of her signature ability to have the permanent Skyfall buff, and if you do, you kind of break that, which can be problematic. However, if you inherit Sheet, Awoken Hermes, or S. Calamari, Beach S. Calamari, you gain the Water Skyfall, but you also gain an Orb Change in conjunction. This could be great to use at the beginning of a dungeon, or somewhere in the middle, say on your partner. So like the first 3 floors are yours, and then your partner has the special Sarasvati, and then maybe it loops back to you, and then you use your regular Sarasvati active. A good way to add some more damage into your regular Skyfall buff protects you against skill delay resist, but not too important. I mainly just kind of list inheritance options. I don't think it's too important on her because you don't really want to sacrifice that Skyfall buff, in my opinion. Again, that's all on my website. You can take a look. So for Latent Awakening setup, they're not too important because you're mainly just focused on being a glass cannon and blowing content up. Maybe having 1 rainbow resist will be helpful for 100% gravities, but outside of that you have flexibility. You can use health or recovery latents because of her high base stats. Skill delay is not too important because you can have skill inheritance to protect your actives, but in co-op your partner's actives are protected from skill delays, so use them as you see fit. For the badge system, if you're playing solo, I recommend using the skill bind resist because you don't have any on your leaders, or the recovery badge. Reason being is the recovery badge adds the most survivability because it's 25% increase compared to like the 5% of health and attack. So, in conclusion, Sarasvati is a new and pretty amazing glass cannon leader. She hits incredibly hard, and to match her orbs is not very difficult. What's challenging is managing your water orbs and planning out your active usage and stalling when safe, but she's great for short dungeons when you want to blow content up very quickly. So I would try to use her there. For longer dungeons or ones with 2 main mechanics, I would run someone else, but she's a great option to have in your monster box. She will serve you well, and hopefully you find nice and new exciting ways to use her. Let me know how you found this article, as well as how do you plan to use your Sarasvati. So, thank you for watching, follow my site, have a mantastic day, and happy puzzling!